I had a total revelation in 2015 when we were still touring and I was going through the cancer journey that we're called whatever our testimony is, and it doesn't have to be cancer, but there is a testimony that we can use to tell the story. And so that's when it really came alive for me, where when I realized that at the end of a show, we'd have 100 people at the foot of the stage saying, can you tell me again what Mark 11:23 is?
Well, let's start. You're here in Nashville. We talked about this out in the hallway. I think we should start there, which is what's it like to be back in town? Because maybe people don't know your career. One of the first places you started, at least, was here.
I just got off the phone with my wife, Connie, and I said, she goes, what's it like? And I said, I feel like I am I'm living in a revelation in a loop. I can't get out of it. Not that I want to get out of it, but I just came back from WSM, which is now WSMV, Channel 4, here in town, where I was the anchorman and Pat Sajak was one of them. Pat Sajak was the weatherman and Oprah Winfrey was a reporter across the street. I was 21, it was 51 years ago. And it was just unbelievable. And Franklin I think it was two cows.
Yeah. And what a trajectory, though. The fact that, you just listed off three, yourself included, who became wildly successful internationally known figures. Why do you think out of this market? Out of what was a pretty small market at the time?
Yeah, it was a small market. Yeah. Actually, I went to school in Raleigh, in North Carolina, and I got a job doing the news there. And then in Orlando, I was there for a little while. And then I got a phone call saying that somebody had seen me on the news in Orlando and wanted me to come to Nashville and do a demo. And so I did. But when I remember walking into the newsroom and thinking, these people are serious, because that was the beginning of sort of the eyewitness news, action news type thing. And Channel 4 and Channel 5 here in Nashville were the only stations, maybe another one, the only stations in the country that were doing a full hour of news. And there wasn't a full hour of news in Nashville.
No. Didn't have enough to talk about.
In 1974, there is now. And so I thought, wow, well, this is great. I hope I get through the audition. I did, got the job, and then I realized that whether it was Robin Roberts from Good Morning America or a bunch of other people, that a lot of the big networks were looking at the Nashville talent because the competition was really big here, and so New York found me out of Nashville, and then all of my friends from Los Angeles have now moved here. I don't have anybody to play music with anymore. They're all right here.
Oh, that was our problem as well. We used to go to LA every other month, and now I feel like we don't. Not only do we not have to, when we go, we're very lonely. It's like wherever we go, they're back home. That's right now.
Well, I not too long ago, I had the Ocean Way experience where when I was deciding how to do this sports record, sports themes, I thought, well, where can I find really great string players, because they're going to have to read unusual stuff, because a lot of the instrumental stuff that I write, at least, is in 5/4, 7/8, 12/8, things like that, because that's what those kinds of songs need. That's what the networks need when they use those songs for video. And everybody just kept saying the best readers are in Nashville, and so it was a great experience. I brought my whole family, and we got a chance to see my 100-year-old aunt Imogene. Of course, her name is Imogene, and so yes, there's a big love for me. Listen, I was 21 years old and learning how to be a journalist, and so this is a very special place for me.
Was music already a part of your life at that point?
It was, but for me, music was always. It was. My mom wanted me to be a full-time musician, so she was. My mom was a retired surgical nurse on Long Island, and my dad was a World War II veteran. So you may be able to see what's coming here. So my sisters and I were both, at 6 years old, those two, my sisters played, they were 10 years older than me. One played cello and the other played piano, and then I played trumpet in the marching band, right? And so that's what I wanted to do. And I was in a garage band. We were in a rival band to Billy Joel's band on Long Island, and it wasn't much of a rivalry. If Billy didn't want the gig, then we got it. We weren't even like Pepsi. We were like RC Cola.
Depending on how erratic he was in the moment.
Yeah, exactly. He was a superstar back then, and it still is. And so what happened was, when it came time to go to college, I thought I was going to go to a music conservatory, and my dad, who was the vice president of the underwear division of Hanes, said, no, I already enrolled you at North Carolina State in textile chemistry, and so you can carry on the underwear legacy. I said, there's a legacy? And so anyway, so I went, and I lasted for 4.5 semesters, and then I took a class in communications and media, and I got bit by that bug, and so I went to change my major without telling my parents, which I don't recommend. And everybody, all the professors said, yeah, sure, we'll sign your drop ad card, but my statistics professor said, no, you're past the drop ad time. I'm not going to sign this because I'm going to follow the rules. So I said, oh my gosh, I'm going to be a year behind, whatever, I can't. So I went back to my fraternity house, and 2 of my brothers said, this is crazy, just do what we do. And I said, well, what's that? When I tell this story on stage, it always has the same reaction. They said, just sign the professor's name to the drop ad card. So I did. Yeah. And all of a sudden, I was a forger.
It worked.
It didn't work.
Oh, it didn't work?
No, it didn't work.
Oh, no.
Thanks for the leading question. No, I did work for a little while, so you were right. Yeah. But then when summertime came around, my dad got a letter from NC State's chancellor's office, all the way up to the chancellor's office, saying that I had violated the honor code of NC State. I was being suspended indefinitely, and then my dad called me in with a scotch in his hand and a Kent cigarette and said, you're no longer welcome in this house. So I was homeless for about 4 or 5 months, and I worked sweeping the floors at a radio station, and one of the guys came in drunk, and I was the only guy, and so I put on the Cinderella slipper, and that's
Tale
how
as
that
old as time feels like. It's always that someone calls in, someone can't make it, and there you are.
Exactly, but it was always, at NC State, even when I was out, it was always, just always practicing and always trying to write songs, So, but the real change for me was people at home who hear this have the hives now because they're thinking of their hand exercises. But what really changed for me was when I ended up in sports at CBS, and David Michaels, Al Michaels, the great Al Michaels, his brother was a producer, and I got assigned the Tour de France bike race. And so David said, hey, John, nobody really cares about bike racing in America. Let's change that. Let's turn it into like an MTV style, coverage. So he said, don't you have some keyboards? And it was like Mickey Rooney. I've got a barn. I got a piano. And so I shipped a Prophet 5, an Oberheim, a thing called a PPG Wave. Your engineer is like going crazy now. He knows exactly what that is.
You can hear him in the other room. Yeah.
And a Mac SE.
Yeah.
Right. And so I wrote the music for the Tour de France, and that's really where people were like, oh, so this guy writes music.
Yeah, some of that's ended up on this sports record, right? There's
bits and pieces of it. Yeah.
I was reading about that and hearing that there was.
So there's it's all like. I love writing big bombastic music. It's like Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor, like that, or Mozart's Rondo. But anything that's really, 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 really quick and big, and so for the Tour de France, I just played Rachmaninoff's Prelude in C sharp minor in D. So this is it. Thing, and then when they're like maybe going downhill.
So is this for like an edited package, or is this like live? Like how did this get used?
What they would do is we'd have all the footage, right? And then I'd see them editing, and I had a monitor, and so I would like lay down bits and pieces, and then Michaels would go, that's cool, or even something even as simple.
It's like silent movie making. That's what it feels like.
I know. So
yeah. It's amazing though. That's where this all kind of came from.
It's also like you don't get a chance to like think about what maybe this works. No, that's good. Here you go. It's like I wrote for about 5 years. I worked with Howie Mandel. Am I talking at like double speed? I feel like I'm like so excited.
We're good. We're good, man. I think it was fun.
I worked with Howie Mandel for about 5 years on cartoon music. So he did a thing called Bobby's World.
Of course, Bobby's World is classic
So
for my generation.
that's all my stuff for 5 years. And,
wow.
but what I loved about it was that they were always on deadline, so they couldn't change anything until the day after it aired, and they go, well, we didn't like that, so don't do that again, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
And it was like that for the Tour de France, where it was just, you're like, okay, John, this looks like Pedro Delgado is one of the riders. He's not going to make it. We need a theme for him, and he's trying to climb up the hill, but there's this thing called the broom wagon, which is following him. It actually has a broom on it in the Tour de France, and it's like the last sweep, and it's a true story, and the day before the race, he found out that his mom was infirmed and stuff, and we needed a song. And I was, what is it? And I'm like, and I don't have footage. I just had that story because he's going to get the footage. It's not this, but I'm thinking about what. Right, and then. And then they might switch to another rider, as the sun rises.
This is wonderful.
A million wrong notes.
No,
but anyway,
it's wonderful.
But it's just. I mean, every composer does this a lot better than I do, but it's just especially with sports. The tempos are always changing, and the key signatures are always changing, And
were you a sports fan, or did you find this as yourself, like John Williams composing a movie? I mean, how does that how does that mentally?
I mean, I'm a huge underdog fan, so I like those kinds of movies, like that movie Rudy.
Story,
yeah. But this was, it was really some of this music was just sort of hacky, and it was just like, we need a thing where a guy falls down, we need a thing where he's going downhill, but then, then there's things would come out like a song which is called "Chasing Gold," which is on the record, which is
it's on Sports, available now.
So it's like which is in 4/4, right? So, the riders, 120 of them riding together, and then it's this. In 5. I don't normally write in 5/4. It's no fun, or 7/8. And so, but you have to do it because the piece is only 14 seconds long, and so it's not going to finish. It's not going to finish the phrase, or in 7/8, right? The Paris 78 is on the record. So just 1 2 1 2 1 2 3 1 2 1 2 1 2 3, which is you can't dance to that.
No,
and
it's for sports.
Right, exactly. So it's 7 against 7 8, and then a drummer's playing 4. So those types of odd signatures, from my experience, they work really well with sports editing, and that's really where the Roundball Rock idea came from, because it was just another theme, but it happened to land right in the middle of Michael Jordan and that whole Showtime era.
Right. I mean, one of the questions I had for you is that it's such an iconic theme, and when I play it for anybody who, especially in my generation, who grew up in that Jordan era, that there are very few songs I can think of that can pull you right back into that moment.
Yeah.
When it comes to sports.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to something that was, it was such a cultural moment. It was such a pop culture, really the zeitgeist of the NBA. I mean, it was the top moment of the NBA. It's never, I don't think that we've ever gotten there. Hopefully we'll get there again, maybe this year for you.
Yeah.
But it was such an amazing moment to when you do listen back to it. It's not just nostalgia. It does bring you into that moment, because if you didn't live it, if you weren't, even for us, like a kid in the 90s, it's hard to describe what it was like to be in the NBA, be an NBA fan, or be a sports fan in that time.
Well, and think about this too. I mean, I just turned 73, so I'm able to look back on certain times in my life going, why wasn't I paying more attention to that? Or whatever. You may have had those feelings before. But when you're in it, you're not thinking, oh, I'm going to be really nostalgic for this, because you just think that everything else is going to be that,
Yeah,
right?
it's going to be as good.
So when you're in the Showtime thing, it was exciting for me to see the theme on every weekend, but I was just working on other music. And then it then it went away, right, when they changed networks. And then Saturday Night Live did it, because the song's 35 years old. Saturday Night Live did a spoof on it, right? That spoof, blah, 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 basketball. And then at the same time, of course, that YouTube came out, that thing. And so...
the YouTube generation.
Yeah, that's what
I
generated
feel like
the nostalgia.
changed so much for Roundball Rock, because as a kid, obviously I grew up with the song. I did not associate the guy I watched on Entertainment Tonight.
Right.
I didn't. Those weren't together in my mind. It wasn't you and that. That wasn't until probably the early days of YouTube, where someone sent me the clip from the Red Rock show.
Right.
Because when Live at Red Rocks came out, I knew it came out, but I was like 10. It wasn't the first thing I was going to listen to.
Right.
But then someone said to me, did you know John Tesh did this? And now that clip of you going through it and working through obviously did then inspire that SNL sketch. But all of a sudden, your legacy is different for different eras. So if you talk to some of the guys in our office, they're like, yeah, when I think of John, I think of hosting. I think of Entertainment Tonight. I think of all these other things. And then you talk to anyone maybe a little bit younger than me, and I'm kind of on that Entertainment Tonight era too, they go, oh no, Roundball Rock. Roundball Rock is it. And that is so much so that in that new ad, it doesn't end with a highlight reel of the NBA. It ends with you and Tracy Morgan.
I know, it's crazy.
Yelling, John Tesh still got it. I mean,
I know.
That's wild.
Well, and Rick Cordella, who's now a friend, he's the president of NBC Sports, and guys like that, and there's only a few of them, have a lot on their plate now, because what's happened is legacy television, right, including Entertainment Tonight, there aren't as many people watching, because they can, some of it's become a commodity. So entertainment news for sure has become a commodity. Music, you can get it everywhere now. You can get my songs on YouTube, but when it comes to live events and live experiences, the reason everybody's paying so much money for these sporting rights is that nobody's going to watch an NBA game on replay.
Yeah, we're not watching it later.
So they had me play Roundball Rock, NBC did, at the upfronts in Radio City. You're familiar with what that upfront is? So everybody might not be, but it's basically they get all the advertisers in a room before their next season starts with all their shows, and they want to get as much commitment up front. Yeah. So it's a big
showcase kind of.
Showcase, big dog and pony show, right? So this year, in May, they said, will you come play Roundball Rock, with the Radio City with the Symphony, which is like in front of 17,000 people. And 17,000 people who were in the advertising industry. It was crazy. But the reason they do that is because advertisers really love, first of all, apparently they like the nostalgia play right now, but they also really love the fact that nobody's going to turn away. You said something earlier, and I found this when I went to the NBA All-Star game this year, just to sort of interview people and ask them. I would play them. I had a little boombox in my hand, and I would play them the theme. I go, what do you think about? Where were you when this was playing? And some people were saying, well, I was 8. Other people were saying, well, I was in the kitchen. Every time I heard it in the kitchen, I had to run to the TV. Yeah. That was the thing that you said, which is so it's sort of they call it the hallelujah. One writer called it the hallelujah chorus for basketball, but in the moment, as we were saying before, you didn't know that any of that was going to happen until it became nostalgia, right? You didn't know that Friends was going to be the #1 streaming show on Netflix for forever.
Yeah.
Until COVID hit, right?
Yeah, it just set the tone for everything that was happening in that time. Yeah. And it sounds like we're over romanticizing a song that was a theme song you wrote, probably thinking, whatever. But to me, it's Cheers. If you have Cheers without Everybody Knows Your Name, you don't have NBA on NBC. Did they this time have to? Did they own it? Do you own it? How did that? I'm just curious. The business side. You're allowed to talk about it at all?
Yeah, sure. Parts of it.
Okay.
No, but I mean, it's.
This has popped up.
But it's a smart question.
Yeah.
because, and this is really sort of a recommendation to musicians. You know, when I was working for CBS and then doing some stuff for NBC for sports and also for the news departments, I just gave away music because I knew if they played it on television, I would get the BMI royalties. Now you don't get as much money as if somebody's going to license the song, right? But nobody knew who I was as a composer, so I was giving themes away, and CBS was fine with that. They were happy, and NBC too. They didn't want to pay for a composer for the Tour de France. Just use Yanni music or something, or
something stock they had. So, something in the library.
So when I handed them the Roundball Rock. They said, well, this will work, you know, and my buddy Terry O'Neill and Dick Ebersol and Tommy Roy and those guys at NBC, they said, well, you know, we'll use this. But we never really had a business deal. So they didn't own the publishing on it. And so we, you know, my family and I owned the song. And the wild thing is...
Well, that worked out.
Yeah. I mean, it's a song. It's not the NBA rights for 11 years, but it's still a song. But I didn't think this. I thought the song was just, you know, a song that we played, you know, on Avalon, you know, or on a PBS special, and not that it would ever come back. There was never any thought about that. But we always played it in concert because literally thousands of people have learned to play this song on YouTube on really weird instruments, you know, and there's nothing like setting up the song like that, you know, before you play it.
Yeah, because we've all seen a lot of the clips of you like, okay, I'm going to record this into my.
It's all true.
It's all true.
It's all true.
And now it's back, and that's got to make you feel good.
It does. And you know what's interesting? I mean, it makes me feel great.
Yeah.
But I almost sold it, and this is kudos to my granddaughter Vincenza. In 2015. I walked into a doctor's office, and I walked out with 18 months to live, and I was told to get my affairs in order, and it was a rare form of cancer, and so we made the decision. Connie actually made the decision. My wife, no, we're not getting affairs in order. We're going to fight this, and so with a combination of scriptures like Mark 11:23 and Proverbs 18:21 and plenty of stuff, the promises. And understanding God's true nature of wanting me healthy and healed, combining that with some really good research on how to beat this, and also using techniques I had seen high-level athletes use for visualization and types of exercises, is that we combined all of this stuff and fought back. But I also wanted to be smart at the same time, and so I went to my business manager. I mean, I think that's smart. But anyway, I also wanted to protect my family. So I said, we should sell my music catalog. Now, my music catalog is not Kenny Chesney's music catalog, but still there's some stuff in there, right? And so we went to these, you know, you get to the guys that buy music catalogs. And at the last minute, Vincenza, my granddaughter, said, and she was 10 at the time, she goes, Pop, you cannot sell that song. That's my favorite song. And she knows how to play it on the piano, right? And so she said, you can't sell it. And we're like, hey, come on, kid. You know, I'm trying. You know, so no, you can't do it. And she kept, every time we would talk about it. And so we sort of forgot about it for a while and paused for a while. And then all of a sudden the NBA comes back onto NBC. And I wouldn't have had any rights at all to the song. So kudos to my granddaughter, but yeah, she can play it, and she can play it better than I can play it. But the interesting thing about the song is that it does have. You've talked about this before. It has those sections that sports broadcasters need, right? So can I do this?
Sure. So let's do it.
Yeah. So like I mean, the first section is just basically the theme, which is like those 8 notes that everybody knows, right? And then again it goes, and then you have to climb into the second section. Now we're in a different key, and then also this is what's known I'm telling people who already know this in Nashville, but then there's a handoff, so that the trumpets are handing off to the strings, and I'm not going to push a button here because
so the voice, the guys can kind of run commentary at this point.
Not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. And the trumpets come back and say, oh yeah, you just did that? I'm going to do this. right? And again. And then, drums. Okay, so that's that section is all animation, and here we go. But now it's time for the announcers. Now it's time for Marv Albert to say what's going to happen today. So it's... Still talking. I can't talk while I play. All right, and that might be commercials too. All right? And then back to, I'm gonna reprise it again. Now what do you do? Well, now you've got to build back to, because the animation is coming back in, so now you got to go. And you can't end without this, right? And then, but wait, there's more.
Oh.
Then the commercials don't come in. Brought to you by Geico. But then this is just. We're in minor key, right? And then, there you go.
Bringing it back. Beautiful.
Yeah.
What's crazy about it, and obviously, like I said, it immediately takes you back, but the way you play it, I can hear everything. And I know that sounds crazy, but it's like I can hear the strings.
Yeah,
I can hear the
so
horns.
smiling when the strings came in.
Yes, it's like there's nothing happening here. I mean, you're playing, I'm watching you play it, but I can feel, again, that moment was so special.
Yeah.
And to be able to even have that, and I played it for my son, who again is 12 years old. He was not around when this originally hit, and he's just become an NBA fan the last couple of years. But I then played him the Live from Red Rocks, and we watched the whole clip, and it became part of, again, it's a part of the story of professional basketball.
Yeah.
And now with sports, you're able to even expand upon that. Did you know that Roundball Rock was coming back when you started the sports project?
Yes, yeah. I probably wouldn't have started it. But I remember my son, Gib, who's 44, he said to me, Pop, I just got to tell you something. When and we've been performing live for a while, but I just haven't recorded any new music. He goes, when you're in the studio,
it's 20 years since you had original out music.
He goes, when you're in the studio, you're just alive, and I just think you really need to have, if the song's coming back, you need the second thing to talk about what your true joy is writing these big bombastic pieces, and what is it? The glory of God is man fully alive, and that's what the way he was able to describe me was you just need to get back in there, and so it really was a different process for me. I hadn't worked like this before, where I came up with, I pulled some old themes out, wrote some new stuff. I partnered with a guy named Tim Heinz, who is brilliant. He actually writes a lot of stuff for Disney. He used to play keyboards he's played in my band, and he used to play in Michael McDonald's band, and he did a lot of the arrangements, and actually when we wrote some stuff together, and then I got a live band together. And you've heard some of the new album. It sounds like
I've
the
heard
guitar player Andrew Sinowick.
Okay.
I mean, he really. I don't want to embarrass him, but it really is Hendrix reborn. Except Hendrix doesn't sight read the way this kid does. But.
And there's a couple versions of Roundball Rock you got on there. So,
yeah,
you got a shredding version as well.
Yeah, but so it was new guys. The guy I've known for years, Tim Landers, played bass on it, but the rest of them were new. And then we came to Nashville and worked at Ocean Way to get the strings and the brass, and they did a tremendous job. So it's probably other than Red Rock, it's probably the most expensive record I've ever put together because there's so many different people on it. And then I took all of that and brought it back into my studio with all the vintage stuff, with the Oberheims and the Prophet that I had, Prophet 5 and 10, and even a thing called a Voyetra. Voyetra is like an 80s synthesizer where they didn't properly shield it. So when I would turn it on to play it in my studio, my wife would go, "Why are the lights flickering in the kitchen?" It was really bad. It's like,
is that why it sounds? I'd say this. It sounds like you. It sounds like John Tesh. Like the reason that the new music, because I don't think that's probably that easy to recapture that sound.
Yeah.
A lot of people here in Nashville, I feel like, are always trying to be like, okay, why does when an artist from the 80s or the 70s and they create a new record and there's just there's a polish and a sheen to it that just, it misses the mark. But when I listen to this, it's like, oh, I'm right back at it.
Yeah.
Is it just because you have that equipment still ready to go?
I mean, I appreciate that, and I think it's because I still go see Yes and Jethro Tull, and I mean whatever's left with any of those bands, you know.
Just Carl Palmer.
Exactly. I'm a huge Vangelis fan, and so I think I spent more time thinking. Most of the other records that I put out, I didn't have a release date because I've been working on it for a year, and so I would put some sounds on there, and then I would go put headphones on and ride my bike, with listening to that, going, is this the Tour de France? Well, no, okay. Or I would listen to Blade Runner on repeat or something, and listen to how Vangelis would bend synths, you know. Or I'd go back and listen to my old Tangerine Dream records, you know, and just even Howard Jones, you know, and Thomas Dolby, stuff like that. Listening to how they were using the synths, and those guys were geniuses.
I want to talk a little bit before we wrap up, also about your faith journey and everything. You mentioned it a little bit during, obviously the cancer journey that you had, and you know, I saw kind of even your trajectory change on what you started talking about. We started talking about health, started talking about all of these things, but you've been able to, since the early days, really balance that career to where you could do Red Rocks, and then the next year you could do worship at Red Rocks. You could do those things. You've been able to kind of live in these worlds of Entertainment Tonight, NBA, and still maintain a relationship and understanding that your faith has always kind of been a part of this journey, at least for the last 20 plus years.
Yeah. It's interesting. I don't recommend having a cancer journey. No, well, but I used to try and share my faith on stage on the PBS specials when we were playing live, and it was okay. Some people would leave, you know, and it was really, I was trying to be winsome, and then I realized, you know, I had a total revelation in 2015 when we were still touring and I was going through the cancer journey, that we're called, whatever our testimony is, and doesn't have to be cancer, but there is a testimony that we can use to tell the story. And so that's when it really came alive for me, where when I realized that at the end of a show, we'd have 100 people at the foot of the stage saying, can you tell me again what Mark 11:23 is? Can you tell me what did you say about death and life are in the power of the tongue? And what did you do when the cancer came back, and things like that? Understanding that, and understanding that we need to be smart about it. Listen, there are people, Kirk Cameron does it well, you know, with Ray Comfort. They go to malls and they just say, hey, you know, they start talking to people about Jesus. I'm not good at that, but if a waiter comes up and they start talking and we say, hey, can we pray for you? You know, and they say, well, or I'll say, hey, can I tell you about, or they're going through a challenge, and can I tell you what my true power is? And they're like, okay. And it's just the Holy Spirit, you know. And people are like, what do you, because you remember that Francis Chan wrote this book called Forgotten God. A lot of churches don't teach the Holy Spirit. And I didn't grow up learning about it. It was, it's the Father, Son, and Holy Ghost. Okay. But I've landed hard on the Holy Spirit now, you know, and understanding that Jesus was serious when he said, I'm going to leave you something wonderful right now, and here it is, and more powerful than me, and that the raising from the dead power, righteousness is in you right now. And so understanding that if I tell my story, then I'm gonna be able to open doors. It doesn't. I don't have to play worship music. I can play any music. You know?
What about music though? Was there Christian music that you grew up on, or is there anything that what was that? What was, I guess you'd say, quote unquote Christian music like for your journey?
Yeah, it was hymns.
Yeah,
it was hymns. I played I played organ and baritone horn in the Methodist Church on Long Island, Westbury Methodist Church. Yeah, I was led worship for a couple of decades in a Messianic church in Sherman Oaks, California, where, for people who don't know, Jews and Christians together who believe in Jesus as the Messiah. I used to call it the House of Pain because most Jewish people who decide that they are going to declare that Jesus they have to leave their family, or that ends up happening. But playing those songs was great. Better is one day, and then the old worship songs still get me, like shout to the Lord and God of Wonders and stuff like that. Yeah.
Any of those still pop in? You still have to play those occasionally on the shows?
Yeah. I mean, I want to. There's a record that we did years ago that actually it got out of print somehow, and we're going to bring it back now that I have a different publishing company, and so it's called A Deeper Faith, and it's all those old songs, and so yeah, I mean it's nostalgic worship songs. There we go.
Oh, I know. There's full '90s worship
better than
nights you can
anybody.
go. Yeah, exactly. This has been what we're doing here.
Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So have you seen? I was watching the Today Show. I just sort of saw the end of a piece, and then I went and watched the rest of it online, and I saw that the Today Show was actually they had a worship band on, which they don't normally do, right?
Yeah, that has been over the last few months. I would say there has been a change in whether it's the Today Show or Fox and Friends, whatever. They're doing these Sunday morning moments, and they're bringing in worship artists and Christian artists in general to perform. Like I was saying with you, where you're able to kind of play to this audience of many, in a way that's beautiful, in a way that Christian music is maybe always wanted and needed, and it's gone through waves. Yeah. But we're seeing a big moment right now, and I love it.
Yeah, me too. And I saw when we were going through COVID, and there were those what were they called? Those like living room concerts, like Maverick City.
Yeah.
That stuff's incredible. They just pile everybody into the house and start singing. Yeah,
COVID certainly opened the door. I think to a lot that opened the door. They opened the door to a lot of people who were just searching for music, searching for something to hold on to. And I've heard from friends, family members, people who I would never have thought. Never would have thought were listening to Christian music. People who I have heard declare their atheism proud, who are just all of a sudden sending me a message on Instagram being like, oh, when we posted a clip from CCM, and like, oh, I love that song. I'm like, you love that song? Okay,
good for you, man. That's great.
Let's start this. Let's start this conversation.
Are you aware of the power of the ministry that you guys have and the responsibility?
Maybe we're just starting to realize it. I think that when we took over CCM, I knew the legacy I wanted to protect. I knew that there was 40 plus years, 50 years of Christian music that I wanted to make sure was protected, and it was part of history, and it really meant a lot to me, and it meant a lot to a lot of people, and it was kind of being forgotten. And then I knew there was this new group of people that were coming on board, and I wanted to make sure they had beautifully shot showcases where people can come in, look at what we've done here, and it's going to look great, and they're going to see, wow, these artists are amazing, and we could show new artists. What I wasn't expecting maybe was when we do that, it opened up a flood of messages. Now, some of them are artists trying to get their name, heard and all of that. We have to kind of sort through some of the good and the ones that are trying real hard. And we're going to get to some of them. But then the people who are discovering their faith through music, and they don't even know really what they're looking for. Right. I've talked to my wife, who's just off camera, and I told her there's a few people who've reached out to me directly who have been like, you should talk to Amanda, because to me, kind of like you, where I don't know if I could have that discussion as well as she could with them. I'll talk to them about music all day long. But when it comes to, okay, you're listening to this song for a very specific reason, and that's because blank is happening with your family. Your husband is doing this. Your kids are struggling. What is it? And it has been a blessing. It's been wonderful. But you're right. There is some. I don't want to act like we have like the hardest job in the world. I love every second of it. But I'm learning a little quicker than I expected that it is coming with some weight, and we have to maintain our lives too with our kids and make sure that everyone's, that we're not hopping around to every live show and every performance that we possibly can. I want to be there, but and that's a rambling answer, but no one's really asked that, so I appreciate it. But it's been wonderful.
But the other thing I would say too, as encouragement to anybody who's watching this, is that I was not taught in the church the healing, the power of what Jesus was doing, and how it's in me now, right? Because of the decisions that I've made.
What do you mean by that? I love Jesus.
Well, just that that what I believe is that when Jesus left, and he left us with the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit being our encourager, was that the true nature of God, which is the true nature of Jesus and also the Holy Spirit, is that he wants us well. And yes, we're going to run our course, but we have to recognize the fact that, what is it, John 10:10, the devil comes to kill, steal, and destroy, but Jesus has always been about life. And so when faced with this dire diagnosis, I was told to get my affairs in order. The first thing that my friends Barry Bennett and Andrew Womack handed me was a book, his book called A Better Way to Pray. And in the beginning of that book, it's Mark 11:23, which is, whoever says to this mountain, be removed and be cast into the sea, and does not doubt in his heart, but believes that what he says will be done, shall have whatever he says. Therefore, whatever you ask when you pray, believe that you receive it and you will have it. Have faith in God. And so that's the message that I give at the end of every concert, which is, we all have these mountains. It doesn't have to be cancer. It can be grief, but and disappointment and depression or any of it. But a lot of churches don't teach that. But when you consume Barry Bennett's book, Healing, he healed them all, or even anything that Derek Prince or Joseph Prince, what they talk about, there's just great news in the power we have to lay hands on others, and the power we have to be able to, of expectedness. Everybody, well, most of the people in the Bible who got healed, before they even met Jesus, they had the expectation that when they met him, they were going to be healed. And so I have that expectation. I have that expectation, whether it's the woman with the issue of blood, or Jairus, or the man at the pools of Bethesda. Yeah. I have the expectation.
They were there for a reason. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And so that's me. Cancer is behind me for a reason.
I don't know if people are going to typically think this is, when they clicked play to hear about Roundball Rock, I don't know if they thought this is where this story would end.
Right.
But here we are. And I think that is a perfect place for our audience to wrap up.
Yeah, and I don't worry about the record. I mean, the interesting thing...
I want people to hear the record.
Well, but the interesting thing about where we are right now is, okay, so say there's no CDs with our vinyl now, but nobody's really...
Yeah, it's collectible.
But everybody is a broadcaster now. And so people are like, oh, I use this song for this, or people are playlisting everything. So we didn't do it. We haven't done like a... You remember back in the day where it was like, gotta have everything ready for Tuesday for the big launch and everything, and if you didn't, all the records were coming back from Sam Goody and all that. It's just not like that anymore.
Yeah.
I have a thing
for better or worse.
Yeah. So I thank you for the opportunity. It's great. It's really great. Good questions.